There we go. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are rocking and rolling. I had to restart my entire computer. I was about to start the stream, and then I noticed I was dropping some frames, and YouTube live streaming thingy was yelling at me saying I wasn't sending enough data. So I restarted the monster and then had to get everything set up again really quickly. So it's not because I wasn't punctual. I was actually only going to be about 3 minutes late, and then that all started happening. So I did the best that I could, and that's my official story, and I'm sticking to it. And Squeaky has arrived. Come on, buddy, you gonna come up here before we go full screen? Come on, let's go, buddy. Move your butt, move your butt. There you go, good job. All right, full screen time. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the live stream. Tonight we're gonna be talking about some D&D 5th edition 2024 rules that you might want to consider using in your 2014 D&D game. I really wish they would just call it like 6th edition already. It'll probably take a couple years, but eventually they're going to call it 5.5 or 6th edition because it's really hard to talk about the two different versions using their really dumb naming scheme. But anyway, that's where we are. So how you can use some of the new rules in your old games, basically. To spice things up, make things different, more interesting, I don't know, whatever. We'll be going over about 10 of them for you to consider tonight. And then, I don't know, we'll probably just hang out. You guys probably can ask some questions and stuff. I actually should probably go through, I have a spreadsheet that people can ask questions into. It's linked in all of my videos. And I should probably go through some of those questions. It's been a while since I've gone through those. But I think I also have a little fun story I wanted to tell you for one of my D&D games too, that I think would be mildly entertaining. So that's kind of what we have on the agenda tonight. Okay, so we do have a couple announcements. First of all, we have a giveaway going on, as we usually do. Hopefully, don't post links because Nightbot will yell at you. We do have a giveaway going on, and I'm going to see. Nightbot has not posted. Let's see if I can do the command giveaway. I don't think I have any moderators tonight, so I think I'm flying solo. It's just me. Well, there is the link to the giveaway in the chat if you want to jump in on that. We'll be drawing the winner at the end of the live stream like we always do. The winner will get $50 DM Lair store credit where you can buy a whole bunch of cool stuff. Layers and Legends, Loot and Lore, we got Secret Art of Game Mastery, we have Into the Fae, modules, D&D Adventures, we got Lair magazine over there. There's a whole bunch of cool crap over there, and winner gets $50. So just join the giveaway, click a few buttons. It's pretty simple. And I don't know what Squeaky's doing. He's trying to escape already. He doesn't know that it's his job to be on the stream with me. Yeah, it's all right, Goliath. Don't worry about it, man. We got this. I'm not afraid of chat. Nightbot has my back. Nightbot is ruthless. He's got a big wrench, and he's not afraid to use it. Second thing we got going on tonight is you gotta stay out of the way when you gotta plant yourself somewhere appropriate. We do have our Kickstarter Dungeon Drifters coming up in 3 weeks roughly. So there's a link down in the chat. Hopefully Nightbot might give you a link to it eventually if it feels like it. So go follow the project. It's a D&D adjacent board game it's a dungeon delver, so you control a character, you're gonna go into a dungeon, you're gonna defeat monsters, and then you get to take their loot and you get more powerful, or you can dominate the monsters and make them fight on your side, which is really cool and gives you a really big boost to your power. And then the whole idea is cooperative, so the whole idea is that you want to beat your friends to get the most loot and then get out of the dungeon. And then the winner is the person with the most loot, essentially. So it is it's rules light, it's pretty fast to set up, pretty quick to learn the rules and get going. So it's the sort of game, the board game that's, it's kind of like a TTRPG, only it's a board game, obviously. And it's the sort of thing that you can probably introduce your family members to, maybe your casual friends who aren't into like maybe the whole hoopla of a TTRPG game, but you want to do something a little bit adjacent to it. So Dungeon Drifters is something that fits that bill. It doesn't have complex scenarios to set up. You're not going to have to spend an hour getting ready to play the game. You can really just the room sets up, the first room sets up like under 5 minutes for sure, and then you're playing the game. So this is going to come in about 3 weeks. It's going to launch on April 8th. So if you click the link down in the description, there's a reservation you can place to get Sylvan Arachne, a free miniature. You put $1 down and you get a free mini. By the way, this game has 46 acrylic minis in it. So they are these acrylic standee minis, full color, double-sided, This is Gloom Sludge. We have Aurelius, the Deposed God. We have the Goblin Pillager, I think, is this guy. And then the Massive Mouths is that guy right there. And I forget what this guy is called. Undulating Ooze. I think this guy's the Undulating Ooze. But all of these guys, you know, they detach from their bases, so they lie flat for easy transport and crap like that. So you'll get 46 of these in the base game, and there's going to be 3 expansions that have even more minis in them. So even if you don't want to play the game, if you just want to get a bunch of minis for your D&D games or something, you're going to be able to get them for like, probably under $2 a mini or something, which is kind of a good price, I suppose. So you could just like cannibalize this for minis if you wanted to. I'm guilty of doing that in my games. I've done that before, just taken board games and cannibalized them for minis and never played the board game. But anyway, it's a cool game. I enjoyed it. My friends and I were together the other day play testing it, and they all seem to be really enjoying it. So it was really cool. All right. The next thing I want to let you guys know is, and there's a link in the chat for this too, but today I just got a fresh shipment of my favorite candles. And this is the one I have burning right now. This is Shipwreck Isle. Now this is made by, Firelight Fables Candle Company. I always like flub the name because I am horrible at pronouncing anything. You guys should know that. But these are my favorite candles. These are premium candles. It is coconut apricot wax and is actual wooden wicks. And this is like another one that I have like, but that I've been burning on as well, you know. These smell beautiful, and they come in these big sizes. They come in these little, I think they're called votive candles or something. But they have tons of different scents. This is like for the exploration sense and then urban sense, but I don't know. They're really good. All I know is that like I get these shipments of candles from Casey, who runs Firelight Fables Candles, and my wife takes half of them, so I only ever get to smell about half of the candles because my wife just takes the other half, and then, well, I do smell them because she burns them in the kitchen and stuff. So she really likes them because she's super sensitive to like bad stuff. Like most candles are made from soy wax or something like that, and they have this, I don't know, it's soy candles are like low quality candles, and my wife can tell, and it irritates her and stuff. But these ones she loves, and she burns them, and they're great. So anyway, there's a link in the chat. There's a link probably down in the description for you if you want to go get some of these. And if you use the discount code, the DM Lair, you're gonna get 10% off as well. So these are premium candles. So if you want some cheap piece of crap, go to Walmart or something. These are the awesome candles that you use in your D&D games to impress your friends, right? So yeah, head on over there and check them out if you feel so inclined. Gonna burn my nose doing that. I'm like lose all my nose hairs, which is probably actually a good thing. You probably don't want. I shouldn't have nose hairs. That's not. I was gonna say it's not masculine. Is our nose hairs masculine? Not the ones on the inside, but like the ones on the top side. You know, guys, the ones that you usually like shave off because you got hairs growing on the top of your nose. Come on, you guys. Some of you guys got those. You know you do. Nobody's gonna admit to it though. You like the old dungeon game that Wizards of the Coast produced way back when? I don't think I'm familiar with that one. I do have a few of their board games, but what is it, Wrath of Ashardalon, and then the Legend of Drizzt. I bought both of those. They're on my shelf back there. I haven't played either of them. I literally just bought them for the miniatures because it was like, I think it was like $80. It was like $60 at the time. At the time, they're much more expensive now, but at the time it was like $60, and then it came with, I don't remember how many minis. Enough that I bought them, and I was not super wealthy at all at the time, and I was just like, I need cheap minis, and I got those. All hair is masculine. We should become the Sasquatch. Dude, I live in Michigan. There are lots of Sasquatches running around in Michigan, especially as you go up north into the upper lower peninsula or the upper peninsula. Lots of Sasquatches. They're verified. It's actually legal to hunt them. You can shoot them and not a problem. You know, the DNR is not going to say a darn thing. You just sling them over the top of your car. You haul them home. You gut them. You clean them. You smoke them. It's beautiful. You know, there's a lot of meat on a Sasquatch too. Dragon Ball told me that eyebrows aren't masculine. Oh, dude, I'm not getting rid of my eyebrows. I see eyebrows. People who shave their eyebrows are kind of not. They got something missing up here, because eyebrows serve a very important function. They keep your perspiration out of your eyes. And I go to the gym and stuff, and I sweat. And like, if I did not have eyebrows, I'd be like blinded by sweat going into my eyes. So like, you know, God created these for a good reason, you know. So shave your head if you want, I suppose, but don't shave your eyebrows. Or you can. Some people put the line. The people that put the line, the one shaved line. It's like, let's create a conduit so that all of the sweat can go into that one eye right there. Let's just drive the sweat all into your eye. So you're like walking around squinting like some weirdo at the gym. I haven't quite seen that before. That would be quite the sight, though. I thought that shaved line was a mishap with the clippers or razors. No, people do that on purpose. My daughter did that at one point, and my wife and I were like, what are you doing? But then she wanted weird clothes too, so it was just kind of, at that point it got normal, you know. All right, you guys want to talk about the 2014 rules you can use in your 2004, no, jeez, I'm gonna screw this up every time. The 2024 D&D rules that you can use in your 2014 D&D game. Ugh, I hate these guys. They're marketing decisions. All right, so let's jump into that. This is gonna give me a headache every time I have to say this stuff. All right, Squeaky, you want to go to the other camera? Let's go to the other camera. And he's standing right here. Well, I probably should not. I don't have to go to the other camera until I actually have something to tell you for the other camera. So the first thing I want to talk about is the first thing is damage threshold rules, which I thought were pretty cool. You can find these on page 364, and we're gonna flip there now. And I have little bookmarks. Whee! That should help me find them a little bit faster. Your big fat butt's in the way. You realize your fat butt's in the way. He doesn't care. They're on page 364. They're at the bottom right here, and they kind of continue on to here. The basic idea of damage threshold is that if a monster has, say, 10 damage threshold, if you do 9 points of damage to the monster, it has no effect whatsoever. If you do 11 points of damage, then all 11 points will be applied to the monster. So it's not damage resistance. It doesn't like reduce the damage taken by a certain amount. It's literally a threshold. And the reason you might want to use damage threshold is that if you have like, say you have like a big beefy monster like the Tarrasque who has a hard shell, well then damage threshold, you might have a damage threshold of like a 20 or a 25 on a creature like the Tarrasque. And that represents its thick hide or its thick shell. Like basically if the monk strides up to the Tarrasque and starts punching it and doing like 8 damage or something, because monks don't typically do a whole lot of damage and they have a bunch of strikes, well then it's not gonna be able to get through its hide. You need something like the barbarian with a big sword or an axe or a maul smoking that thing for big chunks of damage at a time. So that's the idea of damage threshold, which I think is pretty cool. And you don't want to obviously use it for everything, but from time to time when it's thematically or monster appropriate to represent a thick hide or maybe like super heavy armor or something, you can have damage threshold. Now you could just say, well, Luke, why don't you just increase the armor class? Well, you could, but this is different. Like when you just can't hit something, that's a different mechanic and a different feel in the game than when you just can't do enough damage to something because it's got such a thick hide or heavy armor. So it's a different mechanic, has a different feel, and it has different ways of getting around it. And overcoming it as the player. So it just gives them like a different little mini puzzle to solve, I suppose. And I honestly just kind of I like the fact that it penalizes monks. I don't know. I've had too many monks in my games that were like super powerful. Well, this is like medium to high level monks get really powerful. At low levels, they usually suck. I don't know how they are in 2024 rules, but I know in 2014 rules, Squeaky, you can't just fight me if I'm trying to get you out of the way. In 2014 rules, low-level monks were just like, they were wussies. They couldn't do anything. All right, next one. Oh yeah, the exhaustion rules. So the exhaustion rules have been greatly improved in 2024. The 2014 exhaustion rules were okay, but what you always ended up having with 2014 exhaustion rules was they really had no practical effect until you had 3 levels of exhaustion. So the first level of exhaustion gave you like, what the heck did it do? I forget now. I do technically use these, but I just apparently don't use them enough. The first level is disadvantage on ability checks. That almost never comes up. The second level, your speed is halved. It's a little situational. It kind of hurts you a little bit, but it's not horrible. At third level, you have disadvantage on attack rolls and saving throws. Okay, now you're really starting to get screwed with exhaustion. And this is the 2014 exhaustion. And then it gets worse and worse. But the first couple levels of exhaustion for 2014 are just, they're not that big of a deal. But exhaustion in 2024 is much better. And that is on page 366, which is my other bookmark right here. Get your big fat butt out of the way. He's gonna stand right on top of it. Well, not quite. The exhaustion rules are right down here. Basically, same idea. You have 1 to 6 levels of exhaustion, and then your D20 tests, any D20 roll, is reduced by 2 times your exhaustion level, and then your speed is reduced by a number of feet equal to 5 times your exhaustion level. And so if you have an exhaustion level of 2, any D20 you roll is going to have a 4 subtracted from it. And your speed would be reduced by 10. So, and it just gets more and more punitive. It gets worse. And don't rub against the camera. I got it pointed right at my book, you moron. It gets more and more, you want to say punitive? That's like a negative connotation word. But it gets worse and worse as you get more exhaustion, which is kind of how it should work. So you should have immediate effects from being exhausted, instead of how in 2014 it's kind of like meh until you get like at least 3 levels of exhaustion is when you really start to notice a problem with it. Exhaustion 2014 is like going without coffee for a few days. Oh, dude, so this is back after I had just graduated from college, and I worked at a bookstore because I was super ambitious, and I had like a degree from the University of Michigan, and I was just, I don't know, I was just whatever. Anyway, I worked at a bookstore, and this one day I was at a bookstore. Not that there's anything wrong with working at a bookstore. Somebody's like, people are getting offended now, but don't worry about it. You're fine. When you're 20, you just whatever, you get a job. I was at a bookstore. I wasn't 20. I was 22. I was at a bookstore. And one day I was working, and I'm just like, dude, I'm tired, man. I am just dragging. And I got through most of the morning, and then all of a sudden it occurred to me, I forgot to drink coffee this morning. And that's why I was dragging. And then from then on, I remembered, Luke, drink your coffee, because it sucks when you don't have coffee in the morning. I am out of coffee now. Literally drank the last drop. It wasn't that good to the last drop though. All right, what's the next one? Oh, number 3. Number 3 is weapon mastery. So weapon mastery is it's essentially cool little bonus things that you can add on to the things that your weapons do, and some of them could be borderline powerful in my opinion. Others are just kind of cool little perks. But essentially, what can happen if you're running a martial character in D&D is that it can be boring to just swing your weapon time after time after time, and all you're really doing is doing damage, and sometimes you're not doing a whole lot of cool special effects. It's just do damage, do damage, do damage. And you got the spellcasters who are doing all this cool stuff, theoretically, right? Unless they're getting counterspelled, because counterspell sucks. But the fighters, the barbarians and stuff might be a little bored with just doing... I bet it's my mom. Nope, it's not my mom. But the fighters, the barbarians, and all the martial classes might just get a little bored with like only doing damage. And so the weapon mastery stuff will help with that. That's the wrong one. There, this looks better. What page was that on? Page 214. There we go. So you have a list of different weapon masteries things, and essentially, in order to be able to do these things, you have to have a feat or other property, maybe a class feature or class property. Class feature, I think, is the term that would grant you one of these things. But for instance, cleave is when you hit a creature with a melee attack roll using this weapon, you make a melee attack roll with your weapon against a second creature within 5 feet of the first that is also within your reach. And it's got a little other stuff on there. You can push creatures. This is the one that being able to push creatures, I think is fairly powerful. Especially if you're dealing with elevations, if you have a cliff or you're on castle battlements and stuff. Pushing, it's a little situational, but pushing, and there's no saving throw. You just literally push it 10 feet. Pushing without a saving throw can be very powerful in the right situation. And then you can sap them. It gives them disadvantage if you hit them on their next attack. Yeah, on the next attack roll, they have disadvantage. You can slow them down, reduce their movement speed. And then all the weapons over here on this page, each of them has a mastery effect. If you have a feat or feature that grants you mastery. And so I think it's probably fair to say that if you want to use these in your 2014 game, you can just drag and drop them. I don't think you really need to make more adjustments. You're just adding a little extra cool stuff to it. It'll increase the power a little tiny bit, but I don't think it's that big of a deal in all honesty. And it's the same for the exhaustion. It's the same for, what was the first thing? The damage thresholds. You can just drag and drop those into your game. I don't think that you really need to make any adjustments like to balance or characters or like encounters or anything. Just drag and drop and call it a day. All right, the fourth thing that I think is really cool, and I'm a little confused on it, but it has to do with starting at higher levels. So if we go to the player handbook, page 43, and I'm going to show you this, and I'm going to tell you why I'm a little confused on this, because if you go to page 43. It tells you, like, if you want to start at higher levels, it tells you the starting golds you would get, and then magic items that you would get if you're starting at higher levels. And this is the question I have for chat, because I swear that 2014 D&D had rules for this, but I literally spent 5 minutes flipping through this book trying to find the current rules, or the old rules I should say, and I couldn't find them anywhere. Am I just imagining this? Where are they in this book? Because the glossary, I could not find them in the glossary. I was doing online searches and I could not find a page number where starting at higher levels was mentioned in the 2014 book. And I swear they're in there. I just cannot stinking remember where. They might be in the DMG. Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't find them at all. Yeah, I was pretty sure it did as well. But this is just based on my memory. Based on my memory, I don't think the 2014 rules give you recommendations for magic items to start with at higher levels. I think they only tell you the extra gold pieces you get at higher levels. And so the 2024 rules, just they give you a better baseline. They give you a better place to start when you're starting at higher levels. And we know a lot of groups start at levels 3 or levels 5. And so this is definitely something to take a look at. And you can probably, again, you can probably just drag and drop this into your game, into your 2014 game. You probably don't need to do any big adjustments or anything. Just drag and drop and call it a day. I don't have any more coffee in that cup. Yeah, I know I have homebrew rules that I made for starting at higher levels. But I swear they were in D&D 2014 rules. I just couldn't find them anywhere at all. So they might be in there and I have no idea. Somebody in chat will let me know where they are. I bet you eventually. Okay, the fifth rule to use, and this is kind of a cheat because it's not technically a rule, but the monster manual stat blocks are very nice in the 2024 version. And I feel like you could probably just you could just use the new monster stat blocks in your 2014 games as is if you want. Now, there's a caveat to this, and we're gonna look at the stat blocks. And I'm gonna show you examples of some of the reasons I think they're better, and why, and all that good stuff. But the caveat to just using 2024 monsters in your 2014 game is that 2024 monsters are more powerful by their CR. So for instance, in 2014, if something says it's a CR3, and then in 2024, it's a CR3, the 2024 one is more powerful. It is gonna hit harder. And I've done a previous video kind of breaking that, how that works out just a little bit. But they are more challenging in 2024. But that's a good thing, because most of the encounters that you would build using 2014 rules were generally pushovers. They weren't medium, they were easy. And if you try to make it deadly, it turned out to be medium. And so by just dropping in the new monsters, which are more powerful, it kind of balances that out a little bit and makes an easy encounter actually easy instead of trivial. It makes a deadly encounter actually deadly instead of moderate or whatever they call it. So I think you could just probably drag and drop those, and it would just make your games a little more challenging. Now, I want to look at the things I like about the monster stat blocks. Let's go over here. And then let's get the monster manual up here. And I had a couple example monsters that I thought were good. I want to look at the Archmage. That's the one I was looking at. So the Archmage I think is probably a pretty good example of this, but I think one of the big improvements that they did, and this is something that we started to see in I think when they redid the monsters in the Monsters of the Multiverse or something, we started to see this, and now we just see it throughout all the monsters. But when they have spell casting, you'll notice here the mage's spell casting, he has at-will spells, he has 2 times per day spells, and then he has 1 day each spells. And then the same thing for the Archmage. What they essentially did is, instead of just listing all of the slots that you have and all the great variety of spells, they boiled that list down to the spells that are going to be the ones you're most likely to use. And I've always found that when I was running 2014 games, that I would get these spellcasters and all these spell slots, and I wouldn't use but maybe a third of them. In fact, what I would usually do is I would either highlight the spells I wanted to use if I had like a print off, and I wouldn't highlight the book, that'd be crazy. Or I would just write down the spells I actually wanted to use to remind myself, because most of the spells were garbage bullcrap that you're never actually going to use in the game. Because most of the time when a spellcaster actually gets its stat block used, you're in a combat. And so you need to use combat appropriate spells. And so I really like how they boiled this down to the spells that you're actually probably going to use. And obviously you can always just improvise and have them use different spells if it's out of combat and you think they should be able to read your mind, or you want them to do something that's a non-combat-y thing. You could always just improvise that. But having this boiled down, I think, makes it much easier to run these monster stat blocks. And so that's one of the big improvements. I also like I noticed this today actually, which I thought was pretty cool. But they do have the alignments listed in the stat block. You can flip through Mun Mephit, Neutral Evil, and Hobgoblin Warrior, Lawful Evil, and Grell, Neutral Evil. Like, they all have their alignments. Like, you pick one, you know, Gladiator, Neutral. It's a humanoid, so it can be whatever. But I didn't notice that until today, because remember there was a trend, I think Monsters of the Multiverse did this, where they removed the alignment from the stat block. And if I remember correctly, I mean, I don't remember what their official reason was for removing the alignments from the stat block, but I have a feeling it had to do with some, how would I say this without getting a lot of people mad at me? Maybe I should just not say anything and let people in the chat say what they know that I mean. But they removed the monsters alignments from the books for a time being for certain reasons, and I thought it was kind of horse crap. And I thought we should just show me what their standard alignment usually is. We know there are always exceptions to alignments, but tell me what the standard, like a Glabrazoo, tell me that it's usually a chaotic evil. Just let me know that this demon is chaotic evil usually. If there happens to be a good aligned demon, okay, fine. But I just thought it was silly to pull them out and not give the Dungeon Master that information, because it is useful for role-playing the creatures and knowing how they generally behave. So, anyway, yeah, people in the chat got it right. And Goliath Cleric says, literally nobody liked the change to typically. They did. I know. Yeah. Nobody liked that change. I mean, I'm sure there was a small segment of very vocal people who were blasting them on like Twitter or something. They probably liked the change because they got their way, you know. But nobody else. Like, the vast majority of people were like, "This is stupid. Put the alignments back in, you morons." And guess what? They did. Very smart. John's already raging. Okay. Number 6. All right. We're going to head over to the Dungeon Master Guide for the rest of these. Now, I have 5 more to share with you, but before we do that, let's just run through our list of shameless plugs. The first one is Firelight Fables candles. If you're looking for some quality premium candles to use in your house during your D&D games, you can head on over to their site. There's a link in the chat. Hopefully, Nightbot will throw you a link too, so you can go check these out. And you can get 10% off with the discount code, the DM Lair. But these are the candles that I burn. My wife always steals these from me. Like, every time I get a shipment, she takes about half of them and then she burns them for herself. And they come in those big sizes. They have these little votive sizes, and they also have these little tins that are about half the size. I have some over in my cabinet. I don't know why I don't have them handy, but they have tons of different scents, and they're all very, very nice. Very rare is the scent that I don't like. My wife's a little bit pickier, and so she literally takes the scents she likes and then gives me the ones she doesn't like, and they still smell really good. But anyway, I get the unwife approved scents, which still get the job done. And I love them, and they're made from apricot. What is it? What wax is it? Apricot. Coconut apricot wax. Which is a quality wax, much better than the soy wax, which most candles are made from. And they have wooden wicks, actual real wooden wicks, which flicker and stuff like that. Really cool. I always have these running. I always have these when I run my D&D games back there. If you watch them, you'll notice I always have one burning right behind me, because, you know, it helps cover up the pet odor in my basement. I also clean my basement too. You know, that helps as well, but, you know, burning a candle usually helps too. And then final shameless plug we do have our Dungeon Drifters Kickstarter coming up in about 3 weeks, so go follow this sucker. It is a D&D adjacent dungeon delving board game. It is a board game. It comes with 46, the base game comes with 46 of these high quality, full color acrylic mini standees. So you could just cannibalize this for the minis if you wanted to. And it comes with 46 of those, the base game. There are 3 expansions, so you can get even more of these if you wanted to. And what else are you gonna say? The link in the chat will take you to a page where you can place a reservation. If you place your reservation, you're going to get a free mini, Silk Von Arachne, included with your pledge. And also, if you back within the first 72 hours, you get another free mini. Verith, the Fallen Protector, I believe is her name. You'll get her as well for free, included with your pledge, if you back within the first 72 hours. So go follow the Kickstarter, push your reservation down and all that kind of good stuff. Hey, don't bite me. It's a pretty cool game. I was playing with my friends the other day and they were all having a blast. And it was really cool to see them all enjoying it too. Because, you know, you spend a bunch of time making something and then to see other people actually enjoying it, that was pretty cool. So, all right. And then, we do have a giveaway going on today. Somewhere in the chat, you should be able to find the link to the giveaway. We're going to give away $50 DM Lair store credit to one lucky winner, and we will draw the winner at the end of the stream. So go join the giveaway, or don't if you don't want to join. You don't have to get free stuff. Yeah, secondhand sense, hand-me-down sense. Yeah, my wife just takes. I mean, I'm powerless. She just takes what she wants, and I'm left. Like, why do you think I live in the basement? You know, my wife took all of the rest of the house and I got the basement. Actually, I love the basement. I told my wife when we were buying the house, like it was like 5 years ago or something. I was like, the basement's mine. You can have everything else. And now I spend most of my life is down here in this beautiful basement. Yeah, he's trying to bite me. All right, let's hit the rest of our list. Get out of the way. All right. Number 6. Number 6 of the D&D 2014 rules that you should... All right. We're going to talk about 5 more D&D 2024 rules that you should consider using in your D&D 2014 games. It is so hard to get these versions correct. We should just call it 5.5 and call it a day. All right, the first one is the treasure table themes in the Dungeon Master Guide. And I'm going to flip to this for you. This is on page 213. Well, it's on a couple different pages, but it begins on page 213. So what I want to talk about is these treasure themes. Now, a lot of times when you have monsters like dragons or maybe like demons or devils or just bandits or something, you will need to generate treasure for them, right? What I like about these themes is you can choose a certain theme for your treasure to go along with. Like if you were raiding the tower of a wizard, you might choose the Arcana theme. If you were raiding bandits, attacking some bandits, the armaments might work. And then they also have implements, and then they have relics as well. And so you can think about a particular theme of loot that goes along best with your adventure. And then this is just kind of like the high level theme thing. And then if you flip to page 326, what we find is they have the random magic item, they have the random magic item tables here. And instead of just giving us like what we had in the 2024 version, what we instead have is we have a couple different layers of organization. First of all of the loot is organized by Arcana. So we have all the Arcana items by theme, right? The Arcana theme. We have the armaments, we have the implements. But then the subcategorization that they used was obviously the rarity. So we have the common ones, the uncommon ones, the rare, and then the very rare. And so basically what you can do is you can decide what your theme is going to be, and then based upon the level of rarity that you need in your loot, you know, based upon the level of your characters, you can just roll on these tables or just pick something from the tables and get something that's appropriate. And so I think these tables are a very big improvement over what we had in the 2014 rules, which was basically just like random tables by like tiers and stuff. And I don't know, it felt like a little bit like a crapshoot. And it's like if you didn't roll on the right table to get the right table, the loot kind of sucked. And so here we have better guidelines that just kind of tell you, give characters this level of rarity, and then here are some tables that you can either roll on or choose from. And I think it's super helpful. So I would definitely consider using these. Yeah, it lets you do random treasure without it being absurd. Yeah, it's a big improvement on 2014 treasure tables. And I would wager a guess that most of the magic items in 2024 are also in 2014. So you could probably just drag and drop these rules and just start rolling on these tables and then find the exact same magic item in 2014. It's possible that there are some differences, but if that happens, then you can either just roll again or you can just pick something that's pretty close to it. But this is mostly drag and droppable. In fact, most of the rules that we're talking about today are mostly drag and droppable. You don't have to make any adjustments. You can literally just take the 2024 rule, drag it into your 2014 game and use it as is, and it'll work just fine. There are probably some caveats, but most of the time it's going to work just fine. I say tiers and tiers the same way, Max Blaze. It's the same pronunciation for me. Tier and tier, it's the same, dude. If it's not supposed to be, then I will blame my mom for not teaching me properly. Final answer. All right, what's number 7 on our list? Oh yes, all the tracking sheets. So the next one are tracking sheets. So they gave us a whole bunch of different tracking sheets in the Dungeon Master Guide. And you can actually, you don't even have to own the Dungeon Master Guide. They're available for free online. And that's where we're going to go look at them right now. So this right here, this URL, D&D Beyond Sources, D&D Free Rules Tracking Sheets, you get a whole bunch of tracking sheets to help you track different things in your game. Some of these things, like, I'm probably never going to use, and others I think are pretty useful, but you know, your mileage may vary. Pick the ones you want to use. Game expectations, they have a travel planner right here. They have an NPC tracker. I would probably use this. I would use that NPC tracker. I literally have index cards I use for this right now. A settlement tracker, campaign journal. We did a similar thing to this in our Secret Art of Game Mastery. Our Secret Art of Note Taking has a campaign journal, which is better than this. But you know, this is free, so what are you gonna do? Ours, you have to pay for it. And we have a character tracker, a DM's character tracker, which, how is that different from the NPC tracker? NPC tracker, DM's character tracker. Oh, maybe. Oh, this. Oh, okay. This is for helping a dungeon master track the player's character, like what the player's character wants to do, what their goals and ambitions are and stuff. What motivates the player and stuff like that. Okay, this is actually very useful. This is super useful. Okay, cool. I like that. And then we have campaign conflicts. Now the magic item tracker, I thought this was super useful. What I usually do is I have a spreadsheet where I keep track of the magic items that I've given characters or given players, both, whatever. And but this is cool too, little bubble sheet. You just print this off. And literally these are, I'm pretty sure these are downloadable. Well, you can save it as an image, right? Right click it and save the image. They don't actually give you a PDF. Oh yeah, they do, right there, downloadable PDF. So you can download the PDF and then print these off. Beautiful. And by the way, these are free for anybody. What I read online is that even if you haven't bought the books, you can get these trackers. That's what I read. And then a Bastion tracker. I haven't actually read the Bastion rules yet, so this may or may not be useful for you, but they have it. So anyway, there you go. A bunch of different trackers for you that will be of varying usefulness based upon what you need as a game master. I mean, the Bastion rules might be fun. It depends on if your players actually want to do Bastions or not. I implemented strongholds. I was this was a couple years ago, but I told my players in one of my games that if they wanted to create strongholds, they were welcome to do so. And we were going to use Matt Colville's Strongholds and Followers rules. And I had 5 players in that game, and 4 of them had zero interest in creating strongholds. They were like, no, we just want to go on adventures. We don't care about strongholds. And then one of the players was super hardcore about making strongholds. But none of the other ones cared. And so, yeah, it never really went anywhere. It really just depends on your players' interests, whether or not strongholds or bastions are going to be a thing they even care about. All right, what's the next thing? That was not one of the things on our list either. Woo. Okay. The next one on our list is fear and mental stress. So if you remember from 2014 rules, they had these insanity tables that were mostly horrible. They either didn't do anything or they were extremely bad. Like if you rolled on some of these, I think it was, if I remember correctly, the long-term madness table was like not a big deal, but the short-term madness table was terrible. Like if you got some of those things, you're done for until that goes away. But I could be getting those flip-flopped. But they were just kind of hit and miss and were not that great. But 2024 rules are improved, in my opinion. Squeaky, come on, buddy. What are you doing here? You're fighting me. Come on, move it. He's always knocking stuff off my desk is what he's doing. What a jerk. These are on page 70 of the Dungeon Master Guide. Come on, get off my book. We're gonna get there. I have bookmarks for a reason. Yay! So fear and mental stress. Essentially, they have 2 different tables for you. They have the fear table and the mental stress effects. And what these both have is, obviously there are some sample scenarios and then the sample DCs, you know, and then if it's mental stress, you take psychic damage as a baseline. And then if it's a fear effect, you have a save DC, and then you are frightened as a baseline, which taking a little bit of damage, or in some cases quite a bit of damage, but taking some damage and then being frightened as a baseline isn't that big of a deal, but it's not something to like scoff at either. When you're frightened, you have disadvantage on your attack rolls. That's not a small deal. And taking damage obviously is taking damage. But they also have suggested things below it to where if you have prolonged fear or prolonged mental stress, you have other things that as a game master you can decide to implement as well. And some of these things can start to get kind of nasty. And so what I like about the way they implemented this is that you have a baseline that's not that bad, still not good, but it's not game ending. And then they give you some optional things that you can tack onto that to make it worse if you want to. And so I thought that was kind of cool. And again, this is something that you can pretty much drag and drop into your ongoing 2014 game with no changes, and everything should work just fine. Jedi Protector says, I've got a wizard in my PF2 game who wants to ascend Lichdom. Like every wizard in every game wants to become a Lich. Like that's just a thing I'm beginning to find. And I told him I do not care how he attains it. Liches only require a thirst for knowledge in Pathfinder 2. Okay, yeah. All right. What's your next one? I've gotten through those. We are on number 4 is environmental effects. These are really cool. You can find these on page 68 of the Dungeon Master Guide. We're gonna flip there now, which is like one page over. Okay, so Oh, I gotta go to my screen here. So you may remember that D&D 2014 kind of had these, but they were super truncated entries and were not particularly helpful in my opinion. But in 2024, they have really made these a whole lot better. There are a whole bunch of different environmental effects here that you can use. And not only do they kind of obviously explain to you what the environmental effect, the concept is, but they give you a mechanic, something mechanical that you can implement, usually something that's going to make the game more challenging, like if you're on slippery ice, or you have heavy precipitation, or you're in extreme heat or extreme cold, but they have mechanical effects that can be applied. There's usually a saving throw that goes with it, although in some cases, like heavy precipitation, things are just lightly obscured and there's nothing you can do about it, or maybe even heavily obscured if it gets bad enough. So these are really cool. And what I like about these, and this is one of the things as I was looking these over that I was like, oh man, I need to use these in my games. And then my next thought was like, Luke, you know you're going to forget to use these. And I was like, yeah, I'm totally going to forget. But imagine if you have an adventure going on and you have some of these environmental effects that are a constant or come up from time to time. You know, it reinforces that verisimilitude of being in that location. So going to a dungeon in the Arctic is no longer just like a backdrop. It's the Arctic frigid cold can actually affect you, or being at high altitude, or being on slippery ice, or having strong wind, or going across thin ice. Like these are all things that you can implement in your games that will add flavor and mechanics and make it seem more cool and more realistic. So I thought these were pretty cool, and I liked how they gave us mechanics this time. So if I can, I want to remember to use these in my games, but I know I'm going to forget. That's just, my brain can only take so much, I suppose. Oh, don't talk about dinner time. That's dangerous. That's so dangerous. All right. The fifth thing I want to talk about is creating a creature. And this is on Dungeon Master Guide, page 56. And we're going to flip there. Now, you'll have to forgive me for a small rant because it's like the half is glass, that the glass was emptied out and we got a trickle put back into it. But the trickle they gave us is pretty decent. So they did not give us rules for creating a monster from scratch. They no longer tell us the mechanical rules for how to create a creature in D&D 2024. They don't want us to know that. Apparently now it's proprietary information, and they're not willing to share that with people, which is kind of silly because people are already backwards engineering it, and you can already, I forget what it's called, but there's a site out there that has already backward engineered all of the math for 2024 creatures, and it's posted out there for anybody and everybody to use. And I'm sure we already have online monster builders that will punch the numbers for you and allow you to create your 2024 D&D 5th edition monsters. Yeah, for some reason, the developers decided that they need to obscure that information from us, even though they forgot that most of the people that play D&D and TTRPGs are very, very smart. Many of us are like working professionals, software developers, and other very, very smart people, and like we're gonna figure it out. So anyway, but they didn't give us the rules and they underestimated us, but we figured it out anyway. But that rant aside, what they did give us was some pretty cool stuff that allows you to take a base creature and customize it quickly to make it unique. For instance, you could just have, let's pretend that you're running an adventure with goblins, right? Well, goblins, the base creature of a goblin isn't terribly interesting, right? And we all know that. And so you can spice that up by giving it different things. There's a whole bunch of traits right here that you can mostly just drag and drop onto a goblin or an orc or whatever it happens to be to make it seem different and unique from others of its kind, or just something unexpected that your players who know what goblins do aren't going to know that, oh, this goblin does this thing. And then there are different like things you can give them, spells, you can give them different types of attacks, you know, proficiencies, languages, change their ability scores, different senses and stuff, which these are all kind of like, okay, sure. But I think just being able to drag and drop some traits onto the creatures is pretty cool. So This is like adding a little bit of uniqueness or flavor to creatures to differentiate them from others of their kind. But I suppose if you're gonna give us the shaft and not tell us how to actually create monsters, telling us how to make them a little bit more unique, I suppose is like, I guess it's a good side perk. So at least they gave us that, I suppose. Could have been worse, right? Oh, and then Glad Cleric in chat says that Bag of Holding did the math, and then he put the link down in the chat. But it's basically bagofholding.com. They did the math on for the 2024 monsters. If you want to go check it out. And then I'm looking for eventually they're gonna have a monster. Somebody will make a monster calculator so that you can actually create. There's like an online form where you can create your own D&D 2024 monsters, and that'll be super useful too. Eventually we'll have that. Those always come up pretty quickly because they're super useful tools and people want to use them. Oh, it's not Bag of Holding, it's Blog of Holding. So blogofholding.com. Yeah, I can read. That is essentially our list. That is our list of 2024 rules that I thought were cool enough that you might want to use them in your 2014 games. And obviously, I'm sure there are other rules that you guys have found that you think are pretty cool, and you can let me know what they are down in the comments or the chat or whatever. I think what we're going to do now is I need to fill my coffee up, and when I come back, I think we're going to just do some Q&A. We'll just hang out for a little bit. I'll answer some questions and stuff and just chill. So if you guys have questions, throw them in the chat. And then I have a form too that's linked in all of my videos that I'm gonna go to, and I'm gonna answer some questions from that form as well, because it's been a while. I should probably go do that. So get ready for some Q&A. And when I get back from filling my coffee up, that's what we're gonna do. Too busy working to really get too deep into that stuff. Go check out Dungeon Drifters. There's a link in the description. One of our moderators will throw a chat to it as well. This is the board game that we're launching on Kickstarter in about 2 months. It'll launch in April. So this is super, super cool. I envision it's like a dungeon crawler. It's D&D adjacent in a way. Basically, you pick a character, you dive into dungeons, you defeat monsters, you gather all their loot, and you try to be the first to escape the dungeon with the most loot, essentially. It's a competitive game that you can play with your friends, casual gamers, family members that maybe aren't super into like heavy rules and complex setups and stuff like that. Just a little quick, well, it's not a quick game. It usually takes about an hour and a half or so maybe for a game. But the point is that you can get in playing super fast. And we have crazy artwork for it as well. Like I have a whole bunch of, you're in the way. These are like some of our prototype acrylic standees that we have for it, full color artwork. These are prototypes. These are about twice as big as they're actually going to be, but we needed to get some prototypes so that we could take photos and crap like that for like marketing and stuff. So, but the artwork is stinking amazing in these things. So anyway, there's a link down in the description. You just click it. It'll take you to a page where you can learn more about the game. You can sign up to be notified when we go live. You can follow the Kickstarter page. And if you put down a $1 reservation, when you back so you put down a $1 reservation before we launch, like you could do that like right now. And then when we do launch the project and you back, you're going to get a free miniature, Slick Von Arachne and his loot drop included with your pledge when you back. So you put down the $1 reservation now, today, or whenever, anytime before we launch in April, and you're fine. And then you're gonna get that free mini. And that $1 reservation goes toward your pledge as well. So it's literally just like, put this money now, it counts toward later, you get a free mini. It's like score. I missed that. Missed the click, misclick. Coffee Nuts Does a Hobby says, I solved an easy solution. I wrecked 6th edition and made 7th edition in short. Because 24 is really 2 plus 4, making 6. Anyhow, I wanted to reach out and say thanks for being you. Yeah, you're welcome, dude. You're right. So 24 is 2 plus 4, which makes 6, which means 6th edition. Yeah, they should have just called it 6th edition. I mean, now that it's been released and they don't have to worry about sales for 5th edition products tanking, they can probably just call it 6th edition to differentiate. Except that, you know, the rules are all super compatible, so it's not a new edition. It really just is like, it's kind of like what Pathfinder 2 did when they remastered stuff. Same base rules, everything kind of works the same. It's just things got some updates, you know, got some polish, got some changes. So, but it's the same edition, so it totally makes sense that you wouldn't want to call it. But they should just call it remastered. Because if I were able to say D&D 5th edition and then 5th edition remastered, that's so much easier than saying 2014, 2024. So much faster. Except that Paizo probably would be grouchy if they just called it remastered. I don't know. They could come up with, there's a different term they could probably use, and then it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Yeah, it's not 6th edition. Yeah, it's not even 5.5. It really is a bigger errata and changes and different stuff. Yeah, it's like a patch. Yeah, it's. I wouldn't call it a patch. Like okay, so because there were some things they fixed and there's other things they didn't fix, and then there's other things that were not broken that they broke. So if you call it a patch, it's kind of like, all right, so you had like, you know, 5 soldiers and like, you know, 2 of them were down and bleeding and you fixed them, but you put bullets in 2 more and now they're down and bleeding. And then there's the 1 soldier that wasn't bleeding to begin with and wasn't bleeding afterwards, and he's like, okay, I was spared, you know. So it was a crappy patch if that's what it was, because they like, you just, yeah, whatever. So like, yeah, there were some things they fixed, some things that were broken they did nothing to, and then other things that were not broken that they broke. So yeah, it was a weird update. I don't know what you would call that, but that's what it is. Okay, now we're transitioning into Q&A. So if you have questions, throw it in the chat. Put a big old question, like all caps question before it. It's gonna help me see it. And if you asked a question earlier in the stream and I didn't answer it, you can just repost it and we're all happy. Oh, it's like downloadable content that changes the base game. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah. Somebody ring my doorbell. Why is somebody ringing my doorbell? I need to be careful. My dog will rip their face off. The legal name is Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition reimagined. I think Stephen Glicker found that out in some legal thing that Wizards put out. Really, 5th edition reimagined. Why can't a zealot barbarian have a sanctum? I don't even know what a sanctum is. Flavor is no longer free with the 2024 Bastion. Oh, it's a Bastion question? I don't know anything about the 2024 Bastions. I haven't read them. I just started playing in a D&D 2024 game. But I'm in a lot of ways, I'm still getting up to speed on the rules and stuff. I have not read the part about Bastions at all. Wayne Font says, do you think that them not fully fixing many of 2014's issues is an example of planned obsolescence? No, I don't think so. I think there's 2 things that happened for 2024 not getting things fixed that should obviously have been fixed, and why things that were not broken got broken. And I think it all has to come down to the fact that the designers were on a death march. If in software engineering, like, you know, software development, coding, programming and stuff, that is what we would call it when like your bosses are all like, you have to get this done, this is the scope, and you have to get it done by this date. Like, this must be done by this date. Period, end of story. You have to get it done. And you know that there's way more work that you can possibly get done within the scope that they have set, the parameters they have set by that date. And you know that. And you tell management, like, you know, this is like, can't be done. And they're like, nope, it's got to get done. And so then you're just like, you hang your head and you're on a death march. You're marching along and you know you're going to fail. Now, you might hit the date because it was a hard date, but you know you're going to have to sacrifice quality. And you're probably just going to have a whole bunch of problems that you're going to be dealing with after the release date to fix them and all this kind of stuff or whatever. And so I think the D&D developers were on a death march. They had a hard deadline and the scope was fixed and they had to get it done. There was nothing they could do about it, you know? And I think you saw a couple different things happen that made it really bad for them, because the first thing that happened is the OGL scandal happened, and that set things behind by quite a bit. Now, even if the development teams themselves weren't involved in the OGL debacle, that sort of thing going on around you, you know, with the company that you work at, definitely affects your morale and it affects your productivity. And so even if they weren't directly involved, I guarantee you that set them behind on their development life cycle, their timeline, by quite a bit. And so the OGL scandal put them behind by quite a bit in their timeline. And then the second thing that happened that set them back even more in their timeline was the mass layoffs it wasn't December of last year, 2024, but it was December of 2023 when Hasbro laid off, what did they lay off? Was it like 1,500 people, 1,000 people? They laid off a not insignificant amount of their workforce. It was a large percentage of their workforce got laid off. And when you lay off that many people, that 100% affects the timelines of the projects that you're working on. And so I think that's something else that definitely affected them. And so essentially what you had happen is you had fixed scope for D&D 2024, a fixed release date, and they just had more work than they could get done. And so what happened is some of the things that should have been fixed, like a lot of the spells that were broken, that just didn't get fixed, and other things probably, they didn't get fixed because they didn't have time to do it. And then they did make improvements to some of the stuff, absolutely. Those things got fixed. Like some of the spells got better. I'm mostly going to talk about spells because those are the biggest examples that have been shared with me about things that were either fixed, that were okay to begin with, and then they broke, or that were broken and they did nothing with. So I'm going to keep referring to spells because that's the best example that I have of game mechanics that fall into those categories. But I'm sure there are probably other things that's true for as well. They just didn't have enough time. So they fixed some of the stuff, which is great, but there's other stuff that was broken they didn't have time to fix. And then there was other stuff that they made changes to, but didn't have enough time to playtest properly. Those little packets you all got, the Unearthed Arcana, that's not playtesting, that's marketing feedback. So actual playtesting doesn't happen that way. It's got to happen in a different way, otherwise it's not going to be effective. And I'm sure they know that. I'm sure they had internal playtesting and like organized playtest. They must have had organized playtesting that they were using. Otherwise, it would just be pure insanity. But they didn't have enough time for it, more than likely. And so some of the changes they made almost assuredly did not get properly playtested, and therefore they ended up not working and being broken and stuff. Although it's really crazy because it didn't take too long after releasing the books for people to start finding all this stuff. So it begs the question, like, how could they not have found some of this stuff? But I don't know. But I don't. Anyway, the short answer to your question, the too long didn't read is, it's not. I don't think it's planned obsolescence. I think they literally just did not have enough time to do everything that they should have done. So I think that's what it really came down to. Question: are you a doppelganger? No. Question: would you want a truncated description of spells in a spellcaster stat block, or do you think it's fine to need to refer to another book? Refer to another book. For spells, it's fine. Here's the thing: even if you give me a truncated description of the spells in the stat block, if I don't know how the spell actually works, I'm still gonna have to flip to it in a different book. Besides which, I really believe that it is the responsibility, if we're talking about a stat block, we're talking about something that a dungeon master uses. I really believe that it is the dungeon master's responsibility to prep their stat blocks before their games. And prepping a stat block, if it's a spellcaster, involves looking up the spells and then deciding which spells you think you're most likely to use. Because when you run a spellcaster, you can't sit there and flip through the book reading up on all the different spells to find out which one you want to cast. You got to make a decision to keep that battle moving. The same is true for players, obviously. If you're playing a spellcaster, you should know what your spells do so you can make decisions quickly. You should not be looking them up and reading them during the game. So I think the same is true for a game master. When I'm running spellcasters, I look up the spells ahead of time. I pick the spells I think I'm most likely to use, and a lot of times I will write down some of the mechanics of those spells to, like, have them handy so I don't have to keep looking it up all the time. So I think that's just something that is doing your due diligence of game prep before you run a spellcaster or a creature that has spells. Is you know what his spells do and you look them up. You got to do that. And I think putting truncated descriptions in stat blocks is not going to help me, and it's just going to make the stat blocks longer, and it's not helping me anyway. I still got to look them up and know what they do. So I would not want that. I don't think that helps. I don't think that's super helpful. Your mileage may vary, obviously, but that's just my opinion. Question: how do you feel about a lot of the subclasses losing flavor? Trickery clerics can no longer have multiple duplicates, like Marvel Loki, and Archfey can no longer have a charm ability. Well, that doesn't sound like flavor to me. The two things that you just mentioned, having multiple duplicates, that's not flavor. That is a useful game mechanic. And the Archfey can no longer have a charm ability. That's not flavor. That's a game mechanic. So your question was one thing, but the two examples you gave were not flavor. They were game mechanics. And so if they actually lost flavor, well, that's one thing. But if they changed game mechanics, that's a totally different story. And I'm not familiar very much, in all honesty, with the player classes and stuff in 2024 version. Right now I am running a D&D 2014 game that's about to turn to 2024, but it's still 2014. I run a Pathfinder 2 game and I run a Shadow Dark game, and I do all the other things that I do for my business and stuff. And so I have not had time to read the new rules in detail like that. Much less time to actually remember what they say. I'd have to play them before it actually sticks here for a while, So I really can't comment on flavor, but if they changed game mechanics, I will assume that they changed the game mechanics for reasons, to make the classes better, make them more balanced. I don't know. I'm sure if they took something away that you like, in your opinion, it made it worse, obviously, but I don't know. I can't really comment too much on that stuff right now. Captain Radlick says D&D moderators like David definitely didn't help during the OGL crisis. They severely ruined and hampered PR and customer relations. Well, I'm not familiar with that person exactly, but I do know that there was at least one post, maybe a couple posts they put on D&D Beyond that were like very nasty and definitely were very bad. The one that was like, the one they were all snotty and they were like, some are gonna say that we won, but that's not true because we all won or something. I don't know. They had one post that was super snotty. It was this like petulant child throwing a temper tantrum or something. I have screenshots of it. I don't think you can find it anymore, but I took screenshots of all of that stuff. All right. Oh, you meant abilities that are good for roleplay and are flavorful? Yeah, I don't know. Again, like I kind of see what you're saying, but I just can't really comment on it because I'm not familiar with them, you know. Bye, Israel. See you later, dude. We'll see you next time, man. They turned Trickery Cleric into a heal bot and not an actual trickster. I mean, yeah, if they did that, that's not good. A new Shadow Dark supplement is about to hit drive-thru as a pay what you want. Really? Oh, I've bought a couple Shadow Dark supplements off drive-thru RPG already. One of them was like an expanded equipment rules, and then what was the other one? There were two of them that I bought. I forget what it was. It was something, but yeah, I liked it. Goliath says, I'm not a violent person, but I was ready to throw hands over a few of those. Some of their posts, yeah, some of Wizard of the Coast posts during the OGL scandal were very not good. Yeah. Oh, he and other moderators are known for making the We Won posts, and they are known to censor criticism. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm on the fence about censoring criticism. Let me tell you what I do. So I get a lot. I don't know if I would say I get a lot of criticism on like my videos and different things, but every so often I'll notice a critical comment, and most of the critical comments I just ignore them. I'm just like, whatever, who cares, you know. But every so often I see a critical comment where the person is just being nasty, like unjustifiably nasty, just saying something absolutely horrible and despicable, you know. And sometimes I'm just like, yeah, I'm just not gonna let that stand, and I either ban the person or I'll remove their comment. Usually, actually, I never remove their comment. What I will do, if somebody leaves a comment that I find to be particularly horrendous, what I will do is, we call it ninja banning, and essentially what that do is you hide them from the channel. And what that does is, if somebody has been hidden from the channel, then when they make posts, they can see their own comments on my channel, for instance, and they can continue leaving comments, and from their point of view, they're leaving comments. They can see their own comments, and everything's working like it's supposed to. But their comments are hidden from everyone, including me. Nobody sees their comments. So that's why I call it ninja banning. The person doesn't know they've been banned, but they have, and they leave comments and nobody sees them. And so it's an elegant, beautiful solution, in my opinion, because the person is oblivious and they keep leaving comments, even though they've been ninja banned. Oh, Poppy's here. What's up, buddy? Come here, buddy. Oh. So I tend to leave up critical comments and stuff because I just don't care enough to deal with it, and it's not worth my time. And there's another reason too, but the really bad ones I will ninja ban. But the other thing too is that when I get a critical comment, there's this quote that always comes to my mind. I don't know who made the quote, but the quote says, they don't build monuments, or they don't build statues for critics. And the basic idea is that people who are critical of others, usually people who are critical of others are being critical of somebody who has some level of success in something or other. And so those people are critical of these successful people, shall we say. And for instance, there's probably a lot of people that are critical of Matt Mercer and Critical Role. They're all very successful financially and otherwise, and there are probably lots of people that are critical of what they do. And but the thing is that there are no statues being made for all of the critics. that like slander them and say bad things about them. But there are statues, so to speak, being made of Matt Mercer and other people on Critical Role. They're like, you know, they're not literal statues, I don't think. But the idea is that, you know, people know who they are. They've accomplished things, and there are things that are in this world that have their mark on them, and that when they pass on, you know, things will probably remain as part of their legacy. You know, people, if that makes sense. And so when people are critical and saying nasty things, I always just remind myself, they don't build statues for critics. And that if people are criticizing you and being nasty for you, you know, especially if you're in the public spotlight, it's because you're probably doing something right. As long as, like, if it's like 100% of people that are criticizing you, then you might be doing something wrong. But you can't expect 0% of people to criticize you. There has to be some amount of people that disagree with what you're doing and don't like you. And if there are, well, then you're probably doing something right, and you should just keep on going. So that's kind of how I like to think about that type of stuff. And I also like to think too, you know, I kind of wonder, you know, people who are hypercritical or nasty, you know, what kind of headspace are they in? You know, maybe their life really sucks or something, and they're just having a really bad time at it. And, you know, I don't know, they're trying to feel better by criticizing somebody else. I don't know. I'm not saying that justifies it. It's still deplorable behavior, but I don't know. What is going on in chat? Goliath Cleric says, with how some people obsess over them, there are probably a few literal statues out there. And then Nixit says he underestimates the critters. I mean, maybe. Yeah, I guess. That's possible. But by the way, this is I forgot your name. Twitch. This is Twitch. He's an old man, and he stinks. He's a stinky old man. He does not groom himself like he should. And he's a stinky boy. He is stepping on my keyboard too. He's 20 years old, roughly. So he is an old boy. Yeah, big boy. He's a grouch too. Hey, come on, you can't rub on my cup while I'm drinking. All right. Captain O'Reilly says, how do you feel about D&D 2024 further neglecting the social and exploration pillars? They get rid of social encounter focused features like Archfey, Warlock's presence. Yeah, I don't know, dude. It sounds like you just don't like the changes they've made, which is fair. I would just keep playing 2014, you know, or play a different game like Shadow Dark or Pathfinder 2 or something, you know. And if you don't want to support Wizards of the Coast at all because you disagree with them as a company or their changes, then you can buy something like Tales of the Valiant, which is literally a carbon copy of 2014. So then you can just buy products from a different company. In this case, Cobalt Press, you know, because they literally copy pasted, for all intents and purposes, 2014 D&D. And so you can just buy from them, play the same game, and then support a different company, you know. So it sounds like you just don't like the changes, which is fair. I would just not play it then. I would play something else. But I'm not familiar enough with some of these things you're asking me about to really give you a comment on it, you know? Don't shake your head. So one of the things he does is he gets saliva that just starts to drip from his head. He's just like drooling, and then he'll shake his head and throw saliva all over the place. And so my coffee cup was like in the danger zone. It was like a fragment grenade about to go off, and I had to get my coffee cup out of the blast radius. Yeah, Archives of Nethys is awesome for Pathfinder 2. 100% free rules that are up there. You can get all the Pathfinder 2 rules for free on Archives of Nethys. It's awesome. So Archives of Nethys is not run by Paizo. It's a third party that puts those up there, but Paizo's cool with it. And they're like, yeah, let everybody have our rules for free because that's probably more people that are going to play the game. So cool, go for it. So it's a pretty cool model where they just let people use their stuff. And you don't get the lore and you don't get the pretty pictures, but you got the rules, you know. All right, let's go to our spreadsheet. Let's see what questions we have in the spreadsheet over here. I'm just gonna share the spreadsheet so you guys can see these questions, and then we're just gonna kind of go through them. We're gonna start with this oldest one right here. What do you do when people go do their things during other people's turns? What do you see? This is part of what I have to do when I get asked questions. I have to interpret them. I have to translate them. What do you do when people go do their things during other people's turns? We're just gonna put maybe if somebody in chat knows how to translate that, we're just gonna put a yellow there because I don't know what that means. Would you suggest buffing damage or durability to make combat more difficult for broken PCs? Always buff damage. Never increase hit points. That's very simple. Increasing hit points on a creature just makes the combat take longer, which is something you do not need in D&D. Combats are already long enough. The same with increasing armor class. Increasing armor class just makes combat take longer. That is not good. What you want to do is you want to increase the monster's damage. Monster damage. Then the monsters are more dangerous and combat takes less time because they do more damage. So that means they're either going to kill the PCs faster, or the PCs are going to freak out and blow their wads and use more of their resources to take them down faster. So always increase damage if you want to make a monster more challenging. Do you have any advice on creative ways to use layer actions? Yeah, go to ChatGPT, ask it to brainstorm for you. This is gonna be my new answer. Like I'm just gonna start doing this. Anytime somebody wants me to like do creative brainstorming for them, like, you know, like they don't want to, or they're not able to, which is fair. You know, they're not able to like brainstorm creative stuff. I'm just gonna tell you to use ChatGPT because it can do that brainstorming for you. It's one of the things that it excels at. You can just tell it, you know, you can literally go to ChatGPT. Hold on, we will do a thing. Let me show you. Where I'm gonna copy paste this. We're going to do a thing. Hold on here. ChatGPT. All right, here we go. Okay. In Dungeons and Dragons. There we go. I can't put my thing down. Okay, here we go. Environmental manipulation. Layer actions should reinforce the environment. That's good advice. Narrative progression. Oh yeah, I'll tell a story. Okay, sure. Pulses with energy. Okay. Player choice, and see, it just keeps going, baby. Phase-based layer actions, and it gives you examples. It's even giving you examples, you know. There you go. So I should just copy paste this. If you need to brainstorm stuff for your D&D games, ChatGPT will help you brainstorm. Now the thing is you still have to have a human brain that can parse through the information, weed out the crap, and pick the good stuff, and then probably change it a little bit and implement it in a good way for your game. So it still takes a human brain, but for brainstorming, oh, it is really good. It is really good. I do tons of, like, I use ChatGPT to prep all my games, you guys. I literally have, these are some of the chats I use for my Shadow Dark games. I have ones down here. This is my Thieves Abound game, you know. I just, like, if I have questions or I need brainstorming, I just type it in, man. I have all these chats that are set up that'll help me with different things. Some of it's work related, others running my games, but it's just super useful to help you do stuff quickly, you know, especially brainstorming, you know. Give me an NPC. I need a dwarven NPC who is a mercenary. It'll just spit out a bunch of information for you. Make a few changes, it's ready to go. It's the ultimate game master helper. I don't care. What were we talking about? Oh yeah. You're worried about my sidebar? You can see that I ask about carrying chips at a casino. Yeah. My dog has a scratching problem. I'm like, what are the common reasons that dogs scratch themselves a lot? And it lists them all out. Okay. Next. If you wanted to set up an armor system that can take damage, how would you do it? I wouldn't. It's adding... I would not do it. And this is why I wouldn't do it. Because creating an armor system where the armor can take damage and then it can become broken and stuff, or it can be less effective. Essentially what it's doing is it's adding complexity to the game in a way that does not, in my opinion, meaningfully make the game any more fun. So you're just adding complexity, something else to track, something else to do. It's more realistic, yes, but does it make the game more fun? Does that if you're going to add a rule that adds complexity to the game, it needs to make the game at least 2 to 3 times more fun than the amount of bog that the complexity will add, because complexity and more rules always add bog to a game. And so if the game didn't get more fun, but it got more complex, then that is a big loss. That is a huge loss. And so I would never do that. That sounds like something that would just not be worth it, in my opinion. So how would I do it? I wouldn't. Answer. All right, what was I gonna do? Oh, yeah. Agile Monk, what's up, dude? How you doing, man? Dreams and Annie says, one time Discord was down and ChatGPT comforted me. I probably shouldn't have read that. I don't know what you mean by that. I was gonna thank you for sharing, but I probably shouldn't thank you for sharing. But you tricked me into reading that. Trey Small says, I'm stealing your Gorgon trap that you talked about last week in my Pathfinder 2 game tomorrow night. What was the simple puzzle that you used to trick the players? Well, it's not really, it's okay. So it's available to my patrons. So one of the, I'm giving you like the sleazy go pay money answer. But the fact is that it's a simple puzzle, but it has got a lot of text and words to it. And so I can't really tell you effectively. And I can't copy paste it into the chat. It's a lot of stuff. But all of my $25 and above patrons get access to all of my own personal game notes. And those are my notes for my Pathfinder 2 games. Those are my notes for my Shadow Dart games. Those are my notes for my, the 5th edition game I'm running right now is Escape from the Fae, which is modules I've published, or adventures I've already published, so those don't really get notes. But a lot of my past campaigns, Sword Coast Guard campaign, my Hands of Light campaign, my Curse of Strahd campaign, all of my Game Master notes and the adventures I've created for those campaigns, for all of those games, my $25 and above patrons get access to everything. Tons and tons of my Game Master notes. And when I say Game Master notes, a lot of my notes are fully fleshed out adventures. Many of them have read aloud text and all the little bells and whistles ready for someone to pick up and run at the game table. Not all of them, sometimes they're much simpler, but a lot of times they're very well written notes, because that's just kind of how I prepare for my games. So, but my point is, what I'm getting at is that puzzle you're talking about is already up there for my patrons, for my Shadow. I mean, all my patrons get access to all of my different games, but in my Shadow Dart games that I run, those notes have already been posted up there, so my patrons already have access to it. But I don't have an easy way to get it to you, other than telling you to become a patron and get it, I suppose. I'm sorry. I have nothing better for you. It's too long for me to explain. It's easy, but it's not simple, if that makes sense. Which is part of the reason that I think it tricks players, because it's easy but not simple. And so they're like, "Oh, we figured it out." You know, we figured it out. Oh no, you were supposed to figure it out. Copper says, Luke, you need a ribbon that scrolls at the top of your videos and live streams that are continuous sleazy plugs. Yeah, I don't like that. I wouldn't do that. But this right here kind of is. Like, this kind of is. But yeah. By the way, talking about sleazy plugs, we do have a giveaway going on tonight. And we only have a little bit of time left in the stream, so you should go join the giveaway right now before the stream ends, because we're going to draw the winner to the giveaway at the end of the stream, and the winner is going to get $50 DM Lair store credit, where you can get tons of books for your games, Lairs and Legends, Loot and Lore, Secret Art of Game Mastery, Into the Fae. We have Escape from the Fae up there as well. We have like Lair Magazine. We have tons of crap that you can use in your games up there. So join the giveaway. And also, there's a link down there for our upcoming Kickstarter, Dungeon Drifters. This is going to be launching April 8th. That's about 3 weeks from now. This will be launching. It is a competitive dungeon delving board game. So you're a character who goes into dungeons, you fight monsters, you take their loot, and then you try to get the most loot possible and escape the dungeon first. And then whichever player has the most loot wins. And it's very rules light. It's meant to be fast to set up, fast-paced gameplay, and it comes with, the base game comes with 46 of these full color acrylic standee minis. Beautiful, beautiful minis, full color artwork, obviously by human artists. I feel like everybody's always like no AI art, and I feel like that's just kind of like an assumption at this point. We should assume that there's no AI art, but I don't know. Anyway, real human artists. And there's a link in the chat. If you place a $1 reservation, you're going to get a free mini Silk Von Arachne included with your pledge. And if you back within the first 72 hours of the Kickstarter, you're going to get another free mini, Verith the Fallen Protector, I believe is her name, included with your pledge as well. So you'll get 48 minis if you get both of those. And it literally costs you nothing extra. The $1 reservation that you place gets applied to your order. And so they're both free minis. You just got to do the things. So you definitely want to follow the Kickstarter too, so you get notified when we go live, so that you can, get your free mini in the first 72 hours and stuff. So that's happening. You can't see it because my cat's right there, and he stinks. Man, does he stink. Also, go check out Firelight Fables candles. These are my favorite candles. I'm almost always burning these suckers. They smell really good. They are fantasy scented candles that you can use in your like D&D games and stuff. They are premium candles, so they're not like cheap pieces of crap that you get at Walmart. They're high quality premium candles. They're made from coconut apricot wax. They have real wooden wicks. And they also come in these smaller votive size. I believe that's the name, votive. Which I like these a lot because I have this like dragon statue that I put these in, and then the flames flicker behind its eyes, and it looks really cool. So I use these in all my Pathfinder 2 games when we play behind me at that table over there. So there's a link in the chat to Firelight Fables candles, and if you use the discount code the DM Lair, you're gonna get 10% off. They're exceptional high quality candles. You won't regret it. My wife steals like half of all the candles that I receive. All of the scents that she likes, she takes them from me. I think almost all the scents are good. I think there's only been 1 or 2 scents that I haven't actually liked, but I still burn them because I'm not going to waste them. But almost all of them are amazing. Obviously, it's personal taste, right? Some things you're not going to like. That's just the way it is. Okay. Where are we at? Oh yeah, we're answering questions. What are your thoughts about Wizards of the Coast walking back comments about moving away from racial alignment and forcing it across settings? I'm concerned dragon alignment will be determined by color in Eberron. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not familiar with their comments to really be able to comment on that. All right, let's go back to our spreadsheet here. Jeez, my cat's making some weird noises. Any suggestions for patron requests from a hag? This is like creative brainstorming again. I don't do creative brainstorming. Either brainstorm. I don't know why. I'm sorry, but these questions are like. These are the type of questions like you should post on a forum or something if you want to crowdsource ideas, or you should post on Google to crowdsource ideas, or post in ChatGPT, or you should try to just think of some of them on your own. But I don't like the whole crowdsource creativity questions. I just don't like them. I want either you think of it, you do the work, or go ask a robot to give you suggestions and like help you to brainstorm creative stuff, you know. And I think a lot of that is going to be completely dependent upon the patron or the hag, you know, and the hag's motivations and how you want to role play that hag, you know. So I don't know, these types of questions always are, I'm just kind of like, yeah, that's not the type of question I answer, guys. Okay. I want to run a module for a party, but they're already over the level the module was intended for. What's the simplest way to beef up the challenge for them without accidentally breaking something? I wouldn't really worry about accidentally breaking something. You're gonna have to roll with the punches as you go anyway. So here's the thing: if they're not that much higher of a level, then you probably can just add extra monsters to the encounter. Probably. If they are 3 levels or higher over the intended level that the module was designed for, then you're just adding more monsters probably won't work because they're really over leveled. So at that point, gosh, you're either going to be customizing the monsters to make them a higher CR, or you're going to have to replace the monsters with new monsters. You're essentially going to have to rebalance the encounters. The biggest thing you're going to have to do is rebalance encounters. Some of the DCs, the difficulty challenge for different things like athletics checks and other things, you might have to increase or decrease. We said they're over leveled, so it'd be increasing it. So you might have to increase some of the DCs, but the main chore you're going to have is rebalancing encounters. And you can either do that by increasing monsters, or increasing the strength of existing monsters, or replacing the current monsters with new monsters. Those are your options. If they're only 1 or 2 levels above, then you're probably going to be okay with just increasing monsters. But after that, your job is going to get a whole lot tougher. And that's just kind of the way it is. I don't think there's any way around that. Did Luke do cat treats? I missed it. No, I don't do the cat treats anymore, because what I've found is that I'll call, because I have a dog now, most of my cats will not come down here for treats because they're afraid of the dog. And then when I do cat treats, the cats will they won't eat most of them, and then they'll leave, and then the dog will find them and eat them and stuff. So the dog is really causing a problem, because we used to have this whole thing of the cats would come down for a cat strike, and then the cats would roll around in their catnip and stuff and get all happy. But now that I have a dog, the cats are just kind of like, no, we're not going down there. That's too dangerous. I have 2 cats that don't mind. Squeaky doesn't care. He'll come up here. And then Twitch, you just saw a little bit ago too. He'll come up here. He doesn't care about the dog. But most of the other cats, Squirty Pie doesn't really care about the dog. But Squirty Pie doesn't come down here. She's usually upstairs on the second floor. But yeah, I kind of don't do those anymore. The dog kind of screwed all that up. The dog's fault. I can blame the dog. Simon Rogers says, let's get down to the serious stuff. Pineapple on a pizza, yes or no? I'm okay with pineapple on a pizza. I like the traditional pineapple and ham. I think they call that a Hawaiian pizza, but I'm okay with pineapple on a pizza. I would say that it's. I mean, it's not. I would probably not order an entire pizza with pineapple on it. For me, pineapple on a pizza is like a change of pace. I would probably want normal pizza and then have one slice with pineapple on it, and that's enough. So it's kind of like, it's a treat, a change of pace, but I don't think I would want an entire pizza with pineapple on it. I think that would be overkill, you know? A little bit goes a long way, I think, when we're talking about pineapple on pizza. Hawaiian is pineapple and Canadian bacon. What's Canadian bacon again? Is that what it's when it's turkey? No, I don't want that crap. Give me real bacon or don't give me any bacon at all. I think, am I right? Canadian bacon is actually turkey, or am I getting this wrong? I might be wrong. I don't know my Canadian stuff that well. We have lakes between us and Canada. Do the cats like bacon? Who doesn't like bacon? Come on, man. The dog like bacon, the cats like bacon. Yeah, we all like bacon. This is a bacon-approved household. If there is ever a person that comes into my house who does not like bacon, they're going to be shown the door very quickly. We have a pond out back, too. I'll just throw them in the pond. You don't like bacon? This pond is too good for you. Canadian bacon is a type of ham. Oh, okay. So it's not turkey. Okay, good. Then I think we're okay. Yeah, but then it's just ham. At that point, you can just call it pineapple and ham. I got a problem in my throat now. I'm gonna start hacking. It's not exactly ham. Our bacon comes from the belly. The Canadian bacon comes from the pig's back. Oh, that's weird. So it's not exactly ham. Okay. Fred says either you like bacon or you're wrong. I agree. I totally 100% agree. All right, I think we're going to draw the winner to the giveaway now. Let's find that. Draw winner. Here we go. And the winner is Todd from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Hey, Todd, you won, dude. You're like an hour and 15 minutes away from me. I live in Lansing. All right, man. So you won, dude. I will send you an email, Todd. We'll get you hooked up with some cool crap, man. So, oh, that sucks. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm done. We're done here tonight. I was gonna tell you a story and I forgot to tell you a story, but I think we're just gonna have to tell you the story later. There's nothing we can do about it. Story time another time. All right, have yourselves a wonderful evening. I'll see you. I'm gonna be at GaryCon next week. So if you're gonna be at GaryCon, then you should find me and say hi and stuff, and we can talk. I'm gonna be running some playtests of Dungeon Drifters while I'm there. And I'll be playing in a bunch of Call of Cthulhu games. I'm pretty sure GaryCon was the convention that I was signing up for a bunch of Call of Cthulhu games. Or Shadow Dark games. No, maybe it was Shadow Dark games. I'm also going to Chaosium Con for a couple days. And I know I was signing up for Call of Cthulhu games at that one. So I think I was actually signing up for Shadow Dark games at GaryCon, actually. So maybe I'm playing in a bunch of Shadow Dark games. I'm running my own Shadow Dark game too at GaryCon. Anyway, I get confused because I go to these conventions and I don't know what I'm doing anymore. But if you're going to be at GaryCon, I'll see you there. I'll be at Chaosium Con too. That's in like June or something. I don't remember when. April. I don't remember. I think it's in April actually. I can't keep them straight. Anyway, I'm leaving now. Have yourself a wonderful night. I'm going to go have a brain meltdown now because I can't remember anything. There we go.